Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Cutting Edge Figure Skating Podcast. My name is Kim Dunaway, and in this episode, I am recapping the women's event at the 2024 European Championships. This event, overall, I thought was an improvement over last year's Europeans, where I thought that the quality of the performances were not up to where you would like them to be, but I thought this year was a nice step in the right direction. There were more triple combinations. I felt like this year there were more ladies that scored over 100 points in the free skate and more ladies that scored over 120 points in the free skate this year than last year. And the qualifying score to get into the free skate was actually 5 points higher this year than it was last year also. So I think that's really encouraging and also sort of pushes back on some of the comments that we get from a lot of the Russian media about how poor the especially women's competitions are without them there. I think, again, we're doing just fine without you. Thank you for commenting. There was quite a lot of hoopla before the event even started, and I did not see the post that ISU put out on their social media where they said that Luna Hendricks was the reigning champion, which of course is extremely incorrect. Luna Hendricks was silver medalist at last year's Europeans, and the reigning European medalist coming into this event was Anastasia Gubanova of Georgia. So she was quite offended coming into the event, and understandably so. Don't know if that was a honest slight or an intentional gesture by someone on that team, but she actually made some comments to the media that she was excited to go to Europeans, even though she knew it would be very unlikely for her to win. Because I feel like she's sort of been harboring this sort of resentment all season, perhaps dating back to some comments that she made in the off season or towards the end of last year, where she said she was like a Russian through and through with all of the madness that is going on with Russia and Ukraine, just comments in very poor taste and a bit tone deaf. But I don't think that that's uncommon for a lot of people, athletes, skaters who come from Russia, or in the case of Anastasia Gabanova, Russian but competing for another country. So with that being said, I thought she was pretty gracious this weekend and seemed to not be quite as frustrated with her scores as she has been. And we also saw some improvements in what she's done this season as well too. But the lady of the hour and of the championships was Luna Hendricks of Belgium. So she comes in for the second season as the favorite, and this time she is able to get the job done with two strong performances. I still very much like her short program over the long program. And I've been trying to figure out all season, like, why is that the case? And at first I was like, well, maybe it's because the short program doesn't really have any lyrics, but the free skate doesn't have a whole lot of lyrics either. There's, a little bit more than what's in the short program, but it's still mostly instrumental type of music. And I wonder if maybe it's just because there's multiple different cuts of the music in the free skate. And so the mix itself just feels a little bit strange, that it never really seems to take off like the short program does. I feel like I'm less excited even about the short program than I was earlier in the season. She still came out with a ton of confidence in the short program and she skated it very well. I just think I would have preferred a little bit more of a contrast this season than having two of the same style programs. But that being said, in the long program, she did make a little bit of a change with her costume. So she's been wearing like hot pants and a skirt all season. And here she had on pants with the same top that she's been using all season. She was skating really, really well towards the end of her program. She had an issue with her triple flip double toe combination and with her triple Salchow. They weren't terrible, but just kind of poor landings itself brought her scores down a bit. But she had quite a lead coming into the free skate, and she still won the free skate by a little bit over Gabanova and held on to winning her first European title. She was extremely emotional after the event in her interview, saying that she had just worked so hard, and so it was obviously something. I know she was very disappointed that she wasn't able to win last year and was able to bring it home this season. And frankly, this season she has been a lot stronger than what we have seen her with last year. Maybe starting to adjust to the pressure a little bit better this season. I still think that she'll need Kaori Sakamoto to make a mistake for her to win the world championships, but she's definitely going to be in the mix to medal for a third year in a row for sure. I always sort of feel like Luna is a bit overscored in her program components. Now, don't get me wrong. I think she gives everything she's got into her step sequence, which I think a lot of ladies don't do. They sort of phone it in a bit. She has great spins, and so she does have great skating skills. But I do feel like the last couple of seasons that I don't know that I could justify some of the inflation that she gets in her PCS versus some of the other ladies. And I do feel like Gabanova, especially if you go back and listen to some of my episodes from last year's Grand Prix, I felt like she is typically underscored a bit in PCS. Now, I have hammered her a lot this season for not getting her levels in a lot of areas and that really bringing her score down. So let's talk about Gabanova. She was second place here, so gets on the podium again after what's been a rather underwhelming season for her. I mean, after that European title, she did not have a great outing at Worlds. She came right out of the bat this year and won Lombardia, but really has had a rough season since then. She was right in the middle of the pack. She was sixth place in both of her Grand Prix, and you know she wanted to get into the Grand Prix final and make more of a statement. So really the fact that she came here, had two good showings, was way more than what I expected of her. And so in the short program, I have to say, like, I've been fine with the short program all season. I think it's interesting. I don't know if it's the best vehicle for Anastasia, but I don't think it's by any stretch of the imagination a bad vehicle for her. But here, with her going right after Luna, and Luna having a more successful pop style piece than Gabanova, you could really see the difference in the quality between the two of them. And same issues that she's had sort of throughout the season, that short program just sort of loses a little bit of steam towards the end when she gets into her step sequence and to that last spin. And she got level 3s on them, which I think there's been times this season where she's gotten like a level 2 on those elements. So it was improved, but still under 70 points, which I know she was disappointed in, but she was very close. She was actually in third after the short program because she was behind Nina Pinzaroni. But she really did a pretty decent long program. I mean, she scored just under 138 points, which was a fantastic score for her, actually better than what she did last year when she won the title. So I hope that this performance translates into a better showing for her at Worlds, because I think when Anastasia is on, that she can compete with, maybe not Kaori, maybe, and obviously here, not necessarily a Luna, but frankly, there's a couple of places where Anastasia could have done a little bit better as well. I mean, she can go 140 in her free skate if she lands everything and doesn't get calls, which is something that she's had issues with this year. And so anytime anybody's in that 140 range, they are in the mix for a medal podium at Worlds. Her issue is going to be in that short program. Can she get over that 70-point hump? She doesn't quite have the flexibility in some of the spins, which is what's holding her back. But, can she add that extra oomph in her step sequence to get to a level 4? Like, what can she do to help her? Of course, most importantly, she's got to land these jumps cleanly, which she hasn't done on that big world stage. But I would like to see her sort of take that next step, because she has all of the goods to be there. She's just got to do it. All right. Third place here was Nina Pinzaroni of Belgium. And in her short program, she had a personal best, almost got 70 points, 69.7. She had all level 4s on everything, and she had no calls on anything. So when her long program went, again, nailed everything. I thought for sure she was going to stay in second place. But then you have those long waits after they finish, waiting for the scores to come up, and the commentator was saying they're looking at several different jumps. And so her tech score actually went down 6 points, and the margin between her and Anastasia Gabanova was 4 points. And so those 4 Q calls that she got on jumps cost her the silver medal here. And it's interesting because she scored here just below her personal best, which is what she got at Grand Prix France. And at that event, she didn't get any calls, but her PCS were 4 points lower there than they were here, which is not surprising because she's a younger skater, and you typically will see that trajectory of the PCS go up throughout the season, especially as they continue to be consistent. So she has had skates like she had at France or like she had in the short program here where she didn't get any calls. And then she's had skates like here and at Grand Prix final. And it also happened at NHK where she's really gotten hammered in calls. So there has not been that consistency. I don't know if it's with a technical caller or if it's with her jumping ability, but that's definitely something that could be the difference between her getting on the world podium or not, because I also think that she's got the goods to score 140. We just haven't seen it. Now that the PCS are starting to creep up there, if she can get those jumps fully rotated, then it could be a big game changer for her. But still, a fantastic result for her, obviously, in just her second Europeans to get onto the podium. And Team Belgium looking super duper strong. In fourth place here was a big surprise for me, I'm sure for a lot of other people, and that was Livia Kaiser of Switzerland. And certainly expected a Swiss lady to be up here in the top 4 or 5, if not on the podium, but I definitely expected that Swiss lady to be Kimi Rapon. So Livia Kaiser is someone who I do not remember from the challengers this season. I think it was Nepola Memorial when she was 4th. And I was like, I covered that challenger on the podcast, and I do not remember her skate at all. And maybe that was because she did not do as well in the short program there. She had a better free skate, but obviously it just did leave an impression. So definitely enjoyed her here. She's a taller skater. You can sort of see that length. She's like 5'6", which is a little bit taller than what we normally see, but it doesn't appear that height is hindering her in any way. I loved her dress in the short program. It was like she had like this hot pink, like almost ballet kind of wrap, like over a pale pink dress. I just thought that it was different than what we typically see. She fully rotated her jump. She didn't get an undercall or a Q call in the short program. She did get a couple calls in the long program. Really enjoyed that performance too. I thought she just had this really nice spark about her. And so I'm very excited to see her continue to grow, because all of a sudden Switzerland has got themselves perhaps a couple of skaters also. And that's exciting. All right. In 5th place here was Lorraine Shield from France. And this one is a very interesting one because she comes in as the French national champion, but she was not named to the world team. That was instead Leah Serna. And so all of a sudden, France has themselves a top 5 lady at Europeans, and you're not going to capitalize on that and send her to Worlds. So I don't know if they're going to reconsider that assignment or not, or if they're just going to stick with what they decided to do. Let's talk about what she did here first, and then I want to take a look back on both of their resumes at this point. And I'm just kind of questioning the decision to send Leah Serna over Lorraine Shield, or at least maybe wait until after Europeans to have made that decision. So here in the short program, what she did was certainly clean. I didn't feel any real connection to this program. I don't really feel like she's really connected to it either. I feel like her step sequence, she's just kind of checking off the boxes. There's this kind of weird music change in the last like 30 to 40 seconds of her program. I do like that her double axel is her second to last element, not because I think that's the smartest jump placement. I think in general, it's better to have your triple jump late in that second half to get the bonus, but I kind of liked it because it just sort of gave me like this nod to the 90s when you would see like double axles be like one of the last elements in the program, whereas almost always we see like 2 spins in the program, which drives me insane. And then in her long program, I thought it was a strong skate, but again, I didn't think it was a particularly exciting program. But that being said, it's hard to deny a top 5 finish at Europeans. So I was like, okay, well, what have they done in the last year? So Lorraine was at Worlds last season. She did not make the free skate. She was the last lady out at 25th. Now, take Leah Serna, who was at Europeans last year, and she did not make the free skate at Europeans. So either one of them had a great end to their seasons, and they were both at World Team Trophy last year, and they did about the same. Leah Serna did a little bit better than she did, but they were within 7 points of their point totals and just like right behind each other in the standings. And so, neither one of them just blew the roof off the place. They were near the bottom. And so coming into this season, Leah Serna has certainly had a better finish in the Challengers, but Lorraine has had a better finish in the Grand Prix. So Leah Serna was 7th in one of her Grand Prix and 11th in the other, and Lorraine was 5th in one Grand Prix and 8th in the other. And so, and she won nationals. I just feel like she has the more impressive resume, especially with the top 5 finish here, to get that nod at Worlds. I don't know how you could have enough confidence in Leah Serna if you're the French Federation for her to even make the free skate at this point. Whereas Lorraine, I know she's a top 5 finish here, but I think once you add in Japanese ladies, Korean ladies, Isabel Levito, maybe another American lady too, it'll be very, very difficult for her to finish in the top 10, which means it almost doesn't matter who they send, provided that they can make the free skate, right? But we've seen both of these ladies not make the free skate. But I would have more confidence if I'm France seeing this performance here and the fact that she won French nationals with a 200 score, even though it's national scoring, to send her to Worlds over Leah Serna. I just don't know what they were so excited about with Leah Serna to have given her the benefit of the doubt after a 3rd place finish at nationals to give her that world spot. Perhaps they're punishing Lorraine for not making the free skate at last year's Worlds, but I don't know. It's very, very questionable to me. And I know they didn't have the foresight to see what Lorraine was going to do at Europeans, but if you were going to send her to Europeans, was it supposed to be a consolation prize, or you really weren't going to make it a factor? So, and I think, it certainly looks like, and I'll talk about it when I talk about the men, that Kevin Amos is probably going to withdraw. So, they can make these decisions, but who knows? We'll see. I'm just laying out the case. All right. Moving on to the 6th place finisher, and that was Serena Jose of Italy. She is the Italian national champion, and she also is coming off of a big win at Golden Spin, where she actually beat Amber Glenn. So, my question is, after her top 6 finish here, is she the answer for Team Italy? Because Team Italy is literally held back only by the ladies. They have a fantastic dance team. They have a slew of very good pair teams. And they have a strong Italian man in Matteo Rizzo. They've just been lacking a competent lady. And that lady last year at World Team Trophy was Laurinaki Gutmann. And she has just struggled. And she has great programs. We'll talk about her in a little bit. But in general, it's just been a struggle for her to really get the points technically, because she starts with a lower base value to begin with. She just does a triple toe as her combo in the short program, and a triple flip that is not very consistent for her. And so looking at Serena, she's definitely got a much bigger technical ability, it looks like, than Laurinaki Gutmann does. And so perhaps she could be the answer. Now, again, this could be a total fluke, but this is now the 3rd competition in a row where she has skated well. And so perhaps this could be that last piece, and all of a sudden that could propel Italy into being a medal contender at their home Olympics, where they want to be in that mix. Of course, that could also put a lot of pressure on her, because I'm sure they're all well aware of the fact that they need a stronger lady. But here, I thought she had, again, 2 strong programs. The short program was to Caruso, which is the same piece of music that Gabanova uses in her long program. And then in Serena's long program, I thought you could actually start to see like a bit more expression and emotion from her in the program, especially like in that last minute of the program. And that's always exciting to me, because we're looking for people who are not just jumpers, but are also artists. And so I am really encouraged. I mean, earlier in the season, I was like thinking about, Anna Panzetta. I was like, is she going to be the answer? And then she would have like a great short program and then a terrible long program. And so I have a little bit more excitement about Serena. I'm not going to anoint anybody as the answer quite yet, but I think they have to be encouraged by what they saw from her here. All right. And moving on to seventh place was Kimi Rapon of Switzerland. So 2 Swiss ladies in the top 10 who had that on their bingo card. And I think you never know what to expect when somebody comes back from an injury. Kimi comes in as the reigning bronze medalist here last year, and I know she was certainly hoping to get on the podium again, but maybe just not quite yet ready yet for coming back from her hip injury, so that she felt fit and prepared, even though she wasn't able to spin for 3 months, which is crazy. So I thought in the short program, she had a good flip toe combination, but it was just a little tight landing on the toe. And then she fell on her Lutz, and she had similar Lutz problems in the long program. And that's really what held her back from being in that top 5 and really pushing to be on the podium here. I think an interesting conversation is Kimi Rapon versus Nina Pinzaroni. And we haven't seen Kimi at her best really all season, because even coming out of the box at, I think it was not Lombardia, Finlandia, one of those challengers that she was at with Isabeau. Isabeau won, but I think Kimi won the free skate, but Kimi had a rough short program, which she also had in her Grand Prix, a short program. Now, she also had a rough long program because of her injury, which made her withdraw from her second Grand Prix, and we hadn't seen her in a while. But outside of last year at Europeans, when she was third in the short program and second in the free skate, it always seems to be a bit of a struggle for Kimi in the short program. And I'm wondering if maybe, I know she would lose some base value, but would it make sense to take the Lutz out of the short program and put something else there, a loop, maybe, because the difference between a landed jump, even with lower base value, and a fall is huge. And so just wondering about that, maybe, of course, sometimes with a hip injury, the loop actually feels worse. So maybe that's not a strategy, but I just know that we've sort of seen a pattern with her struggling a bit in the short program. And so what can they do to sort of increase her success? Because it's a tough ask to go out and just go balls to the wall in the free skate and be able to bring yourself up once you get to ISU championships like Europeans or at Worlds. You can pull that off a little bit better at a challenger event or even at a Grand Prix, but it's very, very difficult to do when you're against the best in the world. So perhaps it's just, a month and a half from now, she's going to be a lot stronger coming back from the injury, barring that there's no setbacks. But it just feels like maybe there's also a bit of a mental aspect to it as well. And I mentioned her versus Nina Pinzaroni because I feel like Nina is a better artist, even though Nina's not getting quite the same PCS that Kimi's getting, because Kimi's a whole year more established, even though they were both making European debuts last year. Kimi just being more successful. And I also kind of like Nina's jumps better too. Even though she sometimes gets calls on them, I always feels like Kimi just doesn't get a lot of height on her jumps, even though it's something that she says that she's working on. But I know both the commentator and Jackie Wong both said that, Kimi just has low-key power, and she takes up a lot of space in the rink, which is great. It just doesn't always come across on the screen. So, but I would love to see them both at their best and sort of get a little bit better gauge of where they're at, because they're sort of similar in their story to me with their age and sort of how they've come onto the scene. All right, in 8th place here was Olga Mikutina from Austria. I thought she probably would win the award for best dressed. I thought both of her dresses in her programs were both gorgeous. In her short program, she only had a step out on the flip. Everything else was good. She looked like she was just having a total blast during her step sequence. In her long program, she just had a few too many jump mistakes and under calls, like just right off the bat. She had to step out in her Lutz triple toe. She singled her axle at some point. It's not a bad program. If you looked at her score, you would feel like that it was more of a disaster because it was just under 110 points compared with those other competitors. Because I believe she was fourth or fifth after the short program, and ended up eighth, unfortunately, with a, but again, like I said, it wasn't a bad skate, overall, and it's not a bad program either. So, but I think good for her overall. She's got to be ecstatic to be in the top 10 at Europeans. In ninth place was Julia Sauter of Romania, and her short program was to Adele. She only had a triple toe, double toe in her program, and so that obviously cost her some points in the technical mark, but I thought it was kind of a more mature piece skating to Adele than some of the other pieces. We saw like a lot of like the same sounding kind of pieces. Like it wasn't like piano pieces like you see in the dance event, but it was just like a lot of the same style. And so it was kind of nice, even though I didn't think that, her program was anything groundbreaking. It was just kind of nice just to hear something different than what we had heard kind of all day, which by the way, the Lithuanian crowd was so great through most of the event, but the short program was a little bit sparsely attended, which I found a bit strange. It was much better attended in the free skate, and I guess maybe it was earlier in the day or something. I don't know, but and unfortunately for Julia Sauter, she had kind of like Olga Mikatina, just a weaker free skate overall. Like no fall, just one fall, but just not quite the same spark and the same cleanliness that she had in her short program. In 10th place was Lori Naki Gutmann of Italy, and I'm sure it was super disappointing for her to end up as the second Italian lady here. She did really bring herself back because she had a rough short program. In her opening triple toe, which gets a decent amount of distance on that element. I mean, it's starting to it doesn't rival like Gabby Daleman's triple toe, but it's a strong combo. But she turned out of that second triple toe, and the big issue for her was she doubled her flip and got no points. And it's tough because she does have a lot of really difficult connecting steps going into that flip, but unfortunately for her with the pop, and then not her best double axel either. And so she found herself way down in the standings after the short program in 16th place. And so I know she was super bummed about that. You could see it on her face. And I love this short program, Kiss of Death. I love the costume, the hair. I know most people really like the Hitchcock program better, but I like her short program better. I think it stands out more. I still like, and I hate to say this, would almost like to see somebody else do the very same thing. Just because I love the program and I love the choreography. I just still don't feel like she has the artistry to really pull it off like it could. Like I think about like Isabeau's snake program, which Isabeau totally has the artistic ability to pull off that choreography, and Laura Naki, like she's not at the point where like the program is above what she can do. I wouldn't say that. I'm just not sure that it's just at the level that this program could be, maybe on somebody else. And I'm sorry, I hate to say that. Okay. Hitchcock was much better in the fact that she didn't have a just total disaster element, because obviously when you pop a jump in the free skate, it's not the end of the world. What she did pop her last jump, which was her Salchow, but it's not as disastrous in the free skate. So she actually ended up 8th in the free skate, which helped pull her up to 10th place. And, I think it's been a rather underwhelming season for her, unfortunately. It's kind of tough. Look, she's got these great programs, but it just seems like every competition she goes out, it's just always just not quite what you're hoping to see from her. And what you want to see is people get a little bit better every single season. And, maybe they're not going to get a personal best every single season, but you'd almost like to see that. And Laura hasn't had a personal best since the 2022 Golden Spin. And so she's just still chasing that kind of an effort. I mean, her best event all season has been a fifth place finish at Lombardia, which is a challenger, but it's been just, seventh at Nepola and eighth at Golden Spin, seventh at Grand Prix Espoo, and ninth at Grand Prix Canada, and 10th here. And, just in losing Italian Nationals for the first time in 4 years was also disappointing for her, I'm sure. So I'm confident that she's got it in her. She's probably somebody that's a great practice skater. And then when it comes into competitions and you've got that extra bit of adrenaline, just like it feels like something just goes a little bit awry. All right, and the last person I'm going to talk about here is the 11th place finisher, Josephine Talagard of Sweden, and this is by far and away her best finish at Europeans. She was previously 14th and 17th. She was not at the World Championships last year because she didn't have tech minimums, but this year she does. And I think that maybe this year, like, not only does she get to Worlds, maybe she can make the free skate also. She was one who was like the last person out at the Olympics because they took 25 that year because of the whole Kamila Valieva thing, and she was 26th. And so I would love to see her. I don't know how many more seasons she's going to compete. Chris was great on the commentary. This is very tongue in cheek. He goes, and here's the oldest competitor here. And it was like, I'm sure every female wants to be called the oldest person at whatever they're at. I mean, yes, she's 28, but she's not 45, like, besides, when you've got Deanna who's competing at 39, I mean, 28 isn't even impressive. I mean, come on. But even so, she's always super entertaining. I love her short program, mostly because I just love this cover of Wicked Game. And she actually did a very nice triple Lutz that wasn't called under, which was great. Her flip toe combination not only got a Q on the flip, but also got an under on the double toe, which you don't see that a whole lot of. And she missed a position on her spin, which I think she's usually a pretty good spinner. She was actually 16th in her technical score, but 8th in components. So definitely the judges recognize what she's bringing to the table there in terms of composition and presentation, and she just brings a lot of emotion to the program. It was a season's best for her, not a personal best, but a season's best. It's the best that she's done this season. And I also really enjoy her long program too. The mix of Elvis Presley songs that she used. I don't quite understand her costume. It's I don't know. It's kind of weird to me, but I love her costume in her short program, and I love both of her programs. And I was super excited to see her just out of the top 10. It would have been great for her to finish in the top 10, but just off of it. And like I said, a personal best as far as what she has done in the past at Europeans. So the other notable that I will talk about here was Ekaterina Kurikova, who just frankly didn't look very confident even before she went on. She changed her short program, so she has been doing Kill Bill all season, which, it's fine. There's a couple of things that I liked about it, like she did like this music change, like right in the middle of a spin that I thought was cool. Mostly the issue has just been, she's just been struggling with her jumps all season. I mean, she has not had a great triple combination in some time. And so she'd largely been doing triple double combinations at competitions. And then, but she shows up here and she's completely changed her short program. She's now skating to the Sentimental Waltz by Tchaikovsky, which is, quite a big pivot. And it seemed like a little late in the season to pivot to that, but, to each his own. It did not work out well for her, unfortunately. So multiple issues. The first thing was she got an edge call on her triple flip, which I believe was supposed to be her combination right off the bat. And I guess she didn't feel comfortable after landing it to do it. So then she had to do a combo on her next jump. And her next jump was her triple Lutz. So she only got a double off. And then she tried to add a triple toe onto the end of it, which was a mistake. And she definitely did not have enough power to do that. And she fell on it. She also ended up with an undercall on that, so might as well have gone for the double toe anyway and landed it. then getting the fall deduction on top of that. So that whole jumping sequence ended up only being worth 2.35 points for her, plus the fall deduction. And her double axel wasn't great. She had an issue on the last spin, and she ended up sub 50 points and ended up 25th overall. And then to add insult to injury, she got a time violation deduction. Had she not got the time violation, she would have made the cut at 24th to the free skate. But unfortunately for her, just too many things went wrong for her. And big bummer, because she was 5th at Europeans last year. We have not seen her at her best this season at all. It has been just in general a bit of a struggle. And like I mentioned with some of the others, she was, 7th in both of her Grand Prix. She did win Warsaw Cup in the middle of the season, just off the podium in a couple of other challengers. And I'm sure she was definitely hoping to rebound here, and it just did not happen. And she's been in the top 5 the last 2 years at Europeans, and this is by far her worst showing, and I know she's going to want to bounce back from this for sure. All right, so that completes my coverage of the women. So I think for my Pamchenko Award, I'm going to give that to Livia Kaiser, who for 2 really fantastic performances kind of out of nowhere, at least for me. And yeah, I'm paying attention to you now, girl. All right, we'll be back with my coverage of men's. It's the last event that I've got to cover. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. You can find me on all the socials at Ice Skate Podcast. There's been a lot kind of going on in the last few days, so definitely I would check into social media a bit here as we're getting into U.S. national season, and we're coming out of the press from Europeans and of Canadian nationals as well, just so you can stay on top of what's going on. All right. Have a great rest of your week. Oh,